Before we begin, make sure you're somewhere quiet. Turn off the lights. Put on your headphones. Because the stories you're about to hear aren't just scary. These are the kinds of experiences people don't talk about. If you enjoy true horror stories, unsettling encounters, and disturbing events that happen to real people, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now, let's begin. I used to think Valentine's Day was just another marketing scam. Cheap chocolates, fake smiles, overpriced flowers. That was before February 14, 2019, the night I learned how dangerous loneliness can be when someone mistakes it for love. This isn't a story about a crazy ex. It's about someone who never even spoke to me, and what he left at my door. I was 23 at the time, living alone in a small apartment complex just outside the city. The kind of place where people minded their business, walls were thin, and no one knew their neighbors' names. I worked late shifts at a bookstore cafe downtown, so I was used to coming home around midnight. Valentine's Day fell on a Thursday that year. I remember because my shift was unbearable. Couples everywhere. Holding hands. Whispering. Laughing. Every table filled except mine behind the counter. At exactly 11:47 p.m., as I was wiping down the espresso machine, I noticed a man standing outside the front window. He wasn't doing anything unusual. Just standing there. No phone. No coffee. No date. Just staring straight at me through the glass. I remember thinking it was strange, but not scary. Downtown had its share of weird people, especially late at night. When I looked again, he smiled. Not a friendly smile. It was slow. Intentional. Like he'd been waiting for me to notice. I felt a chill crawl up my arms. When I turned away and looked back again, he was gone. I forgot about him by the time I got home. That was my mistake. As I unlocked my apartment door, I noticed something resting on the welcome mat. A single red rose. Fresh. No card. No note. I froze. I hadn't told anyone where I lived. I hadn't been on a date in months. My heart thudded as I scanned the hallway. Empty. Quiet. I told myself it was a wrong apartment. But I didn't throw the rose away. I brought it inside. I hadn't told anyone where I lived. I hadn't been on a date in months. My heart thudded as I scanned the hallway. Empty. Quiet. I told myself it was a wrong apartment. But I didn't throw the rose away. I brought it inside. The next morning, Valentine's Day, I woke up to a knock at my door. 3 short taps. When I opened it, there was no one there. Just a small white envelope taped to the door frame. Inside was a handwritten note. I hope the rose didn't scare you. I was nervous. My stomach dropped. No name. No number. I reread the sentence again and again. How did he know where I lived? How did he know I'd seen the rose? I didn't go to work that day. I stayed inside, curtains closed, phone in my hand. At 2:14 p.m., there was another knock. This time, I didn't answer. Through the peephole, I saw a man standing with his back to the door. Tall. Dark jacket. Hands clasped behind him. He stood there for almost 2 minutes. Then he slipped something under my door and walked away. Another letter. You looked beautiful last night. I wanted to say something, but I didn't want to scare you. My hands were shaking now. He was talking about the cafe. About me. I called the non-emergency police line. They told me there wasn't much they could do without a direct threat. I didn't feel safe, but I didn't feel believed either. By evening, I decided to leave and stay with a friend. As I packed a bag, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One text. Red is your color. I dropped my phone. I hadn't posted anything online. I hadn't told anyone what I wore to work. Someone had been watching me closely. Too closely. I grabbed my keys and opened the door. And screamed. Pinned to the wall across the hallway were dozens of photographs. Of me. Leaving work. Unlocking my door. Sitting inside my apartment through the window. Some were taken at night. Some from only a few feet away. At the center was a final photo. Me holding the rose. Under it, written in red ink. Now you know how I feel. I don't remember how I got out of the building. I don't remember driving. I only remember shaking uncontrollably at my friend's place while the police searched my apartment. They never found him. But they found something else. Inside my bedroom closet was a small gift box wrapped in Valentine's paper. Inside was a card. To my Valentine, it read. I didn't send this because I wanted to wait for the right moment. The card was dated February 14th. Next year. I moved out 2 weeks later. Changed my job. Changed my number. Changed my name online. Every Valentine's Day since, I keep my lights off and my phone silent. Because sometimes love doesn't want your heart. Sometimes it just wants access. I used to work the night shift at a small Italian restaurant just off the highway. It wasn't fancy, red checkered tablecloths, fake candles, dim yellow lights, but on Valentine's Day, it became a nightmare. Not because of couples. Because of one man who came alone. And kept coming back. February 14th, 2021 fell on a Sunday. We were understaffed, overbooked, and already stressed before the doors even opened. Every reservation was filled. Roses on every table. Soft music playing. The usual Valentine's nonsense. At exactly 6:03 p.m., a man walked in. He was dressed neatly. Dark coat. Clean shoes. Well-groomed. Nothing about him stood out, except his eyes. They didn't scan the room like everyone else's did. They went straight to me. I have a reservation, he said calmly. I checked the list. Nothing under his name. He smiled politely and said, "That's strange." She said she'd be here early. I assumed he'd been stood up. It happens a lot on Valentine's Day. I offered him a table near the window. He shook his head. I'd prefer something more private, he said. So I seated him in the far back corner. Table 12. At first, everything seemed normal. He ordered 2 waters. 2 entrees. 2 glasses of wine. I asked if he wanted to wait to order the second meal until his date arrived. He smiled again. No. She'll appreciate that I ordered for her. Something about the way he said it made my stomach tighten. Throughout the night, I kept catching him looking at the empty chair across from him. Sometimes smiling. Sometimes nodding slightly, as if listening. At one point, I watched him lift his wine glass. To us, he whispered. I looked away. By 8 p.m., the restaurant was buzzing. Laughter. Glasses clinking. Valentine's chaos. But table 12 stayed quiet. When I went to clear his plates, I noticed something odd. Both meals were eaten. Not half-eaten. Not pushed aside. Completely finished. I asked him if his date had arrived earlier and left. He looked confused. She's been here the whole time, he said. I forced a smile and backed away. Later that night, I found something on the floor near his table. A folded piece of paper. At first, I thought it was trash. But when I opened it, my heart dropped. It was a printed photograph. Of me. Standing behind the counter. Taken from inside the restaurant. Written on the back in careful handwriting. She's jealous. I felt cold all over. I told my manager. He laughed it off, said the guy was probably a harmless creep. We get those sometimes. By 9:30 p.m., most couples were paying their checks. Table 12 hadn't moved. The man was now leaning toward the empty chair, whispering. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but his tone was intense. Possessive. When I approached to tell him we were closing soon, he looked up at me sharply. Please don't interrupt, he said. She doesn't like that. I told him firmly that it was time to go. He sighed, stood up slowly, and reached into his coat. For one terrifying second, I thought he was pulling out a weapon. Instead, he placed a small box on the table, wrapped in red paper. He turned to me and said, "Could you give this to her? She's shy." Before I could respond, he walked out. We called the police. They searched the restaurant. Nothing suspicious. They told us to throw the box away. But curiosity won. Inside the box was a silver necklace. Attached to it was a tag. It had a woman's name engraved on it. I recognized it instantly. It was my name. That night, when I got home, my apartment door was unlocked. Nothing was stolen. Nothing broken. But on my kitchen table were 2 plates, 2 wine glasses, and a single note. She loved dinner. Next time, we eat at home. I quit my job the next day. I moved 3 months later. And I've never gone out on Valentine's Day since. Because sometimes, the scariest thing isn't being alone. It's realizing someone thinks you never were. I've never been a big fan of Valentine's Day. Even before everything happened, I always thought the holiday felt forced, fake romance, expensive dinners, expectations that never quite matched reality. But now? Now I hate it for a different reason. Because Valentine's Day is when I learned that someone had been watching me for years. And that I was never as alone as I thought. I live alone in a small duplex on the outskirts of town. Quiet neighborhood. Mostly older couples. The kind of place where nothing ever really happens. For the first few years, my Valentine's days were predictable. No dates. No plans. Just a knock on my door every February 14th. Flowers. No note. No name. Just a bouquet left neatly on my doorstep. At first, I assumed they were delivered to the wrong address. I even called the florist the first year. They couldn't find the order. The second year, it happened again. Same flowers. Same wrapping. This time, I kept them. It felt harmless. Sweet, even. By the third year, I was curious. On the 4th Valentine's Day, there was finally a card. Inside, written in neat handwriting, was a single sentence. Thank you for being patient. That didn't sit right with me. Patient for what? I started asking neighbors if they'd seen anyone drop them off. No one had. One older woman across the street hesitated when I asked her. Then she said, "I thought you knew him." I asked her what she meant. She told me there was a man who parked down the road every night around the same time. He never caused trouble. Never spoke to anyone. Just sat in his car. Watching. She assumed he was waiting for me. That night, I checked my windows. Nothing. No car. No movement. I tried to convince myself I was overthinking things. Until Valentine's Day came again. This time, there were no flowers. Instead, there was a small box. Inside it was a USB drive. I didn't plug it in right away. I should have thrown it out. But curiosity won. The first video was timestamped February 14th, 5 years ago. The video showed my front door. From across the street. I was leaving for work. I watched myself lock the door. The next video was from the year after. Same angle. Same time. Me opening the door to pick up flowers. Each file was labeled carefully. She smiled today. She looked tired. She cried this year. The most recent video showed me standing at the door just the night before, holding the box, looking confused. I realized then that every Valentine's Day, he had been there. Every year. Never missing one. I called the police. They took the USB. They searched the area. No car. No suspect. No leads. They told me to stay with family for a few nights. I did. When I came back home, something had changed. My living room smelled like cologne. Not mine. Not familiar. On my couch was a new bouquet. Fresh. With a note. You weren't supposed to see those yet. I didn't sleep that night. I started noticing small things after that. The bathroom mirror wiped clean. My bedroom window unlocked. My phone charger unplugged and plugged back in the wrong way. Someone was inside my home. Not breaking in. Living around me. On Valentine's Day this year, I didn't stay home. I drove aimlessly until midnight. When I finally returned, my porch light was on. I never leave it on. There was a candle burning on my dining table. 2 plates set. 2 chairs pulled out. And taped to the back of my chair, a photograph. It was of me. Sitting at that same table. Taken from behind. The timestamp read 10 minutes earlier. The note attached said, I didn't want to eat without you again. I moved out the next day. Different city. Different number. Different life. But every February 14th, I still find flowers outside my door. Different addresses. Same flowers. Same patience. And the terrifying certainty that whoever he is, he's never missed a Valentine. And he never plans to.